Welcome everybody, I am Seven and I am the DM of 7th Roll, and I guess I should start by saying Happy New Year, since I'm pretty sure this video is going to come out in 2024, even though I'm recording it like right before, so for me it's technically not Happy New Year yet. Anyway, Happy New Year, and whatever else you celebrate at this point in time. Anyway, this video is the next in our ongoing little my own 5e revision series. For people who have not seen this series yet, it's very simple. A little while ago, I started making videos talking about One D&D, kind of commenting on the changes that Wizards has been making to 5th edition, and I noticed that I was complaining a lot. And at a certain point in time, I realized maybe it's better if, instead of just constantly complaining, I actually see if I can do something about it myself. And that sort of inspired the idea of making my own sort of 1D&D changes to 5th edition. At this current point in time, there are 3 classes that we've looked at. We've looked at the fighter, we've looked at the monk, and we've looked at barbarian. So the 3 warrior classes are pretty much done, you could say. And so now, as you can see on screen, we are moving on to the ranger. Now, again, I'm going to put up a couple of important little thingies here. First of all, this is completely untested and untried. You can see that it's version 0.1. This is just me throwing a couple of ideas onto a blank page and seeing what sticks, seeing what people enjoy, and seeing whether or not I want to go further in that direction. So, you know, if you run this, don't expect it to be balanced, especially not to like the CR system, which is already broken in and of itself. This is going to break that even more. So that's 1. 2, this is a build that comes off of the original Player's Handbook, the 2014 Player's Handbook. The reason that that's important is because you don't need to look at the other 1D&Ds to really be able to use this. Which doesn't mean that there's no changes from 1D&D that kind of flutter through into this little bundle. However, don't assume because a change has happened in 1D&D that it'll happen here. An example that I usually give is weapon mastery. I am not assuming weapon mastery to be a system in my bundles for the fact that I don't like the system, and I'm not going to get into that again. So that's what I want to start with, just so everybody is on the same page. And that means we can get into the ideas behind Ranger. Now, what is the design idea for Ranger? The original one, I think a lot of people know that Ranger and Paladin are sort of in a similar boat. They are half-casters in 5th edition that each are meant to be sort of a combination of fighter and one of the caster classes. For Ranger, it's fighter and druid. For Paladin, it's fighter and cleric. However, the thing is, I feel Paladin has been able to make its own little niche, right? Mostly because Divine Smite is an insane ability that is broken and is the only reason you play Paladin, let's be honest. Ranger, however, originally was seen as one of the worst classes in the game. And in my personal opinion, just also, it feels very similar sometimes to just, you know, fighter with dex, stuff like that. And it hasn't really, in my personal opinion, carved out a spot within the 5th edition world. So when I started redesigning, I had ideas for Barbarian, I had ideas for Monk, I had ideas for Fighter, but Ranger was one of those that to me felt relatively difficult to come up with an idea for, because Ranger is a really weird spot, right? Even if you look at 1D&D, when Ranger was remade, it was one of the first classes that they took a look at. It was actually put in the expert group, right? When Wizards was still using class groups, which for some weird reason they got rid of. And it was put in the expert group alongside Rogue and Bard, and that was, I guess, sort of meant to symbolize I kind of want to call it the skill monkeys, the people who, or the classes that were more meant to use skills and stuff. But also to me, it singles out a little bit of the odd ones out, right? They're not necessarily meant for combats. You know, Rogue is capable of holding its own in combat, but it's not as meant to be a combat class as something like a barbarian or a fighter. Bard was not added to the mages the same way that Warlock, Sorcerer, and Wizard were. And neither of these classes, even though 2 out of the 3, Ranger and Bard, have healing spells, they're also, once again, not put into Ranger class, or into the Priest classes, sorry. So they kind of need to carve out their own little space. And that got me to an idea. And that is the idea that I want to show in this class here right now, and that you can probably already see in the first level. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So, this is the page. There is one thing that you are immediately going to notice here, which is there's no spell slots. I've decided, and I'm thinking of doing the same thing with Paladin currently, I've decided that I'm going to get rid of the half-caster status on Ranger and Paladin. If I ever get to Artificer, I don't know if I'm going to do the same thing there, but honestly, I'm getting rid of a lot of spellcasters at this current point in time due to the issues with them. So I figured, you know what, let's just get rid of half casting for a bit and replace it with something else for now. Other than that, I've added a little word, and we will get to that in a minute. So, as per usual, the starting class features like equipment, proficiencies, hit points, all of that has not changed as far as I know, except if I screwed something up. Because again, I'm not in a position where I want to change that just yet. So, let's actually get to the features. First of all, let's start with expertise. I have decided to put expertise on Ranger. Technically, the One D&D version already kind of did that. But for some weird reason, in Bundle 6, they also added the whole terrain thing. Because apparently people asked for that. So, if anyone can answer me this question, why do people still want to play Rangers with terrains? Because to me, terrain has always been one of the worst design choices for Ranger. I don't know. I've just always found that a very weird design. Even worse than the original, like, favored enemy. Like, favored enemy, you know, DM was probably every now and again gonna put that in. This was like, I don't get where that comes from. So I just turned it to expertise because I like expertise as a feature. It's one of my favorite features, and I think that Rogue shouldn't be the only class to get it. But then we get to the big one. Primal Companion. People who have looked, especially of the Tasha's version of this, the Tasha's version of the Beastmaster Conclave will recognize this feature. Yes, I have done the same thing that I did with Fighter. I have taken a subclass feature and made it the main feature. So, what is the idea here? Primal Companion. You magically summon a primal beast which draws strength from your bond with nature. Beast is friendly to you and your companions obeys your commands. You can use any of the available stat blocks detailed at the end of the class description, assuming you meet its requirements. I'm actually thinking that maybe I'll get rid of this, but I will explain in a second why this is. Actually, no, I'm not thinking of getting rid of this. I'll explain this in a second. The beast uses your proficiency bonus when it asks for it. And in combat, the beast acts during your turn. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action on your turn to command it to take another action. This is a change that came, I think, originally when Artificer got its Steel Defender subclass, so when Artificer came out pretty much, and was then moved into Tasha's as the replacement for the original Primal Companion. I'm actually personally a very big fan of you need to use a bonus action to command your creature. I actually like that a lot. Because originally I played with the Revised Ranger from Unearthed Arcana, where you had a companion, but that companion literally was just another creature in the game. Which honestly made Ranger very, very powerful. Because your companion became a very powerful being. And especially if you were completely free to take whichever companion you wanted, I kind of had my issues with it. So, very bluntly put, I think this is a decent sort of midfield. You still have a creature that can take its own action, because the original problem with the original companion was like you need to use your action for your beast to do something. The problem was your beast was never going to do as much as you were, especially once you started getting stuff like magic items. So yeah, I think this is a good like middle ground. This action can be one in its stat block or some other action. You can also sacrifice one of your attacks when you take the attack action to command the beast to take the attack action. So pretty much you replace one of your attacks with an attack from your beast. I'm assuming this also takes up your this means it doesn't dodge, but anyway. Actually, I don't know. Anyway, if you're incapacitated, the beast can take any action of its choice, not just dodge. And then when you finish a long rest, you can summon a different primal beast or resurrect your beast if it has died. It appears within 5 feet of you. And if you already have a beast from this feature, it vanishes when the new beast appears. Beast also vanishes if you die. That's Primal Companion. That's the base of Primal Companion. And then I immediately, because I was scrolling between two things, you also notice an additional thing here, companion bonds. I think people who've seen the previous videos know that I am kind of getting into the habit of giving level by level features. I personally am a big fan of allowing a person to make choices whenever they gain a level in a class. I'm personally not a fan of like mostly Barbarian excuse me, Barbarian has this very, very bluntly, where you know they get a choice of level 3 for their subclass, they get their ability score improvements, and that's it. So I added companion bonds, which pretty much, to say it very bluntly, these are abilities that are shared between you and your companion, right? So your connection with your companion is not like others. Because of this, you and your companion learn a couple of so-called companion bonds. Each of these strengthens your bond with your primal companion. You learn a number of features as detailed in the companion bonds part of the class table, and in addition, whenever you gain a level in this class, you can replace one of your known companion bonds for another one for which you meet the requirements. So this is this table again. Very simple idea. You just have a bunch of features detailed at the end. Now, before I continue on, I also just realized I forgot something here, but I'll get to that in a second. Before I continue on, I am going to go to the end of the class description and show this. One thing that I very specifically do want to do is I want to make specific companions. One of the big issues that I had both with the One D&D version of Wild Shape, or one of the original One D&D versions of Wild Shape, and with the Primal Companion in Tasha's, was the fact that what Wizards was trying to do there was make quote-unquote these general companions. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of just having a beast of the land or a beast of the sea or whatever. Because one of the fun things about the companion and one of the fun things about Wild Shape was this idea that you had this list of possibilities and you were sort of capable of making a choice that was good to the situation, right? Wild Shape, one of the best examples of this is, why would you choose a panther over a wolf? Well, you'll choose a wolf if you have a lot of friends next to the target, because now you have pack tactics, but you'll choose a panther because it has a climbing speed and it's faster. Or why would you want to choose a bird? Well, you need flying speed, even though maybe you don't need as much offensive prowess. That's the idea that I really want to sort of highlight here. So what I've done up until this point, I've made 3 companions. Don't look at the fact that they're also the same as the bear totems, totems from Barbarian. I do want to add several here. At this current point in time, I've just only had 3. I at least want to have a swimming one as well. I'm just not sure which creature I want to use for swimming. I also mentioned some of these are going to have a requirements. Currently, the subclass is not in here, but for example, Drake Warden, or the dragon subclass of Ranger, allows you to get a Drake for a companion. That would be a creature that would also be in this list. However, you would only be able to get it assuming that you are that specific subclass. That's an example, right? I'm also thinking of putting some other subclasses in here, some other companions in here for specific subclasses, but that's something for a future video. So currently, the 3 that are here is, you have a bear companion who has 9 times your ranger level, but a little bit lower AC compared to the wolven companion, who gets 6 times your ranger level in hit points and 13 AC. But the wolf is also faster, has 40 feet of movement speed. The wolf has keen hearing and smell, advantage on perception checks relying on hearing and smell. The bear only has that for smell. But then, for example, the wolven companion has pack tactics and has a bite, which has a strength saving throw to be knocked prone, but only deals 1d4 plus 3 piercing damage, whereas the bear has a bite for 1d8 plus 4 piercing, or a claw for 1d6 plus 4 slashing. Some of you might be thinking, why does it have a bite and a claw if the bite is going to be better 99% of the time? There are companion bonds that are going to have an effect on this, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then the Eagle Companion has the lowest amount of hit points, only 4 times your ranger level, does have 13 AC, but has a 60 feet flying speed. I don't know why it has pack tactics. I think I copied this over from Wolf and forgot to get rid of it. This was supposed to be flyby at some point, that attacks of opportunity have disadvantage on the Eagle Companion. And then Talons doesn't do a lot of damage because it's not a big creature. Also, PB, by the way, stands for proficiency bonus. Remember, whenever it asks for a proficiency bonus, it uses your proficiency bonus, just so you know. Right, so that's the idea of the companions, right? And it is sort of what I've built this class around. The special thing for Ranger is the fact that they have a second being with them. That being is important. Some of your primal bonds features, or your what did I call them? Companion bonds feature. Keep saying primal bond features for some weird reason. Some of your bond features are going to be reliant on your companion being there, right? So there is still that important element of, you do need to keep your friend alive. But it's also going to have this little bit of interactivity because you're now playing 2 characters instead of 1, which I think is cool. So that's the idea of Ranger. Then we go a little further. There's also a second thing for Ranger, which is Favored Enemy. Now this is supposed to say when you reach level 2, you only get this feature at level 2. In addition to fighting style as well, by the way. But it pretty much says you always have Hunter's Mark prepared. Here's the thing. As I said, you don't have spell slots on this class anymore. So pretty much you can just cast Hunter's Mark a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses on a short or long rest. If you are wondering why I decided to make this a short rest, or like you get him back on a short rest, Hunter's Mark, I think, is one of the most important elements in a Ranger's kit. And I don't want you to have to be very careful with Hunter's Mark. I do want a portion of your playstyle to still be, I can bonus action Hunter's Mark. One of the big reasons that I also feel like it's kind of fine is remember that you still have to order your companion to do stuff using your bonus action. So you do have to be careful with those things. But yeah, that's really the idea here. Then, in addition to that, fighting style, also supposed to be level 2. This has not changed. You can pick archery, defense, dueling to weapon, has not changed. I think there's a couple of new ones that Ranger got in Tasha's. Haven't added those yet because I keep forgetting about those. But yeah, the idea stays. You can use any fighting style for Ranger, pretty much. Third level, Ranger Conclave. I have decided to stick with the 3 original ones, Hunter, Beastmaster, or Gloomstalker. All detailed at the end of the class description as usual, and their levels are also the same, so still 3, 7, 11, and 15. Yeah. Ability score improvements. This has changed ever so slightly, because I might not have had the inspiration to do something at level 10. So, because Rogue already does this, I figured, you know what? Ranger and Rogue have always been seen as sort of sister classes. Why not give them an ability score improvement at level 10? So I did. So pretty much Ranger now gets an ability score improvement of 4, 8, 10, 12, 16, and 19. Extra attack, if you've looked at the previous 3 videos, you know what happened here. You now get a 3rd attack at level 11 and a 4th attack at level 17 because... I mean, I'm going to explain it again because casters get cantrips scale at level 5, 11, 17, and I cannot take the fact that you do not get extra attack at those levels. I can't take it. Also, again, to kind of lessen the gap a little bit between casters and marshals at higher levels. That's the other reasoning behind this. So, extra attack. Still one of the things that I'm almost guaranteeing you is going to stay, honestly, at this point. Roving. I think this is the feature that I stole from somewhere. I don't remember where I stole it from, but pretty much starting at level 6, speed increases by 10 feet while you are not wearing heavy armor, and you also get a climbing and swimming speed equal to your movement speed. I think this is good. This is also the level where you get your 2nd expertise. Remember, you get expertise at 1 and at 6. So I figured you don't necessarily want a very broken feature at level 6, seeing as it's going to be combined with the 2nd expertise, which at level 5 is already like an additional +3 to 2 of your skills. So I think this is fine. Land Stride at 8. This is again a feature that I nicked from the original class, I want to say. You pretty much aren't affected by non-magical difficult terrain. Can pass through non-magical plants without being slowed by them, and you have advantage on saving throws against plants that are magically created. I don't know if this feature is going to stick, I'm going to be perfectly honest. Again, I don't think it needs to be a really broken feature, because it is combined with an ability score improvement. So, meh. 9th level, communication with Primal... yeah, right, sorry, this is a new one. Natural communication. Originally, as I said, you normally have to use your bonus action to order your companion around. What I've done here is you can now use a free action to command your companion. But you can only do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And you regain those uses after a long rest. I thought this was a cool thing. I have realized with the fact that technically you can order your creature to do an attack by giving up one of your attacks, maybe that's a little funky. Although technically you can use your bonus action to let them do their attack and then have all your attacks left over. So I do think this has its own value. I just think because we're sort of focusing ranger on this companion now, I think it's a cool idea that at a certain point in time, your communication with your companions becomes so potent that you can just do this and they do something. But I didn't want it to just be like an all-out thing that you could do for free. At least not at this level, but we'll get to that later. So you can use it a number of times, equal to your proficiency bonus. At this point, that should be 4. So, you know, gives you a little bit of extra value, pretty much. And then you can still use your bonus action for like Hunter's Mark to weapon fighting or any other bonus actions. Excuse me. Hide in plain sight. This is honestly a feature that I just like a lot in Ranger. I know that Liam with Sequita is also a big fan of this, but pretty much spend a minute creating camouflage, and now you can hide and you get a +10 to your stealth checks. I don't know. I like this more than Pass Without a Trace. I think Pass Without a Trace is bullshit. But anyway, so that's your idea. And you know, this feature, other than that, has not really changed. It's very simple. Nature's Veil. I'm pretty sure Nature's Veil originally was the level 14 feature. I've pretty much moved it to 13. As a bonus action, you become invisible until the end of your next turn. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. Once you take a long rest, you regain all expended uses. Very simple. You become invisible. I like this as a feature. I think this is a cool feature. And I moved it up 1 level because invisibility at level 13 doesn't seem much more broken than invisibility at 14. Feral Senses. Again, I think this used to be level 18 of Ranger, I want to say. Pretty much you get blindside within 30 feet of you. Very simple. And then Perfect Communication is pretty much the further build up on natural communication. Starting at 17th level, you no longer need to use a bonus action to direct orders at your Primal Companion. So you can do it for free now. Why is this at 17? Especially, why is this with your 4th attack? Honestly, because of mathematical prettiness. Which is going to sound really weird, but the fact that you get your communication at 1, then 8 levels later, you get natural communication, and then 8 levels later, you get perfect communication. I don't know. I like that. Sue me. But pretty much now you don't need to use your bonus action anymore. Very simple. You have perfect control. Pretty much you and your companion are in perfect sync. I'm even thinking of maybe just saying you can even just direct mental commands at them. That you have like a mental communication thing with your companion. I think that would be cool. Favor of enemies. This is another new one. I feel like there's very little in terms of Hunter's Mark features here. There is sort of a reason for that, but I might add some other Hunter's Mark stuff. Pretty much whenever you reach level 18, you can divide your powerful focus. So pretty much the idea is that in Hunter's Mark, in Favored Enemy, it says you're adept at focusing on a single foe. Now you can you have enough experience with focusing on foes that you can still split the focus and get the same same result. My voice is trying to kill me today. So whenever you cast Hunter's Mark, can target a number of creatures, target a number of targets up to your wisdom modifier. And whenever you roll your Hunter's Mark damage to a target, you can deal that damage to all other marked creatures. You can only reapply this Hunter's Mark to other targets when all affected creatures have dropped to 0 hit points. So pretty much, let's say that you have 14 wisdom, right? That means you have a +2. So you can target a number of targets up to your wisdom modifier. So now you can pretty much hunt down 2 different targets. I think I'm going to change this to you can target a number of additional targets up to your wisdom modifier. And I also need to add a minimum of 1 here. Fairly simply put, the idea there is that, in other words, what would happen is if you have 14 wisdom, you have +2 to your wisdom modifier. So that means you can target 1 target with Hunter's Mark, and you can target 2 additional targets. This should also probably be within range, so within your Hunter's Mark range. So all 3 of them are now marked. Whenever you shoot one of them, You roll your Hunter's Mark damage, and that damage is shared amongst all 3 targets, giving you a little bit of AoE damage. However, you can only start moving your Hunter's Mark to new targets whenever you've killed all creatures. And remember, it does say here whenever you cast Hunter's Mark. I don't know if I want you to be able to target multiple creatures whenever you use it again. That's something that I'm still debating. I think it would be cool. I'm just not sure yet. And then finally, Natural Champion. Again, people who have seen the new Barbarian video already know that I'm kind of starting to move towards this kind of a feature for every single one of the 12 classes. Pretty much at 20th level, you and nature become 1. Your wisdom score and maximum increases by 4. And you can also choose one other stat and increase its score and maximum by 4. Why did I specifically pick wisdom? Because there are several features in this that use your wisdom modifier. And I don't want to force you to play. This is sort of the same idea as like with like Monk, where I don't want you to force to have to play a Dex Monk. So I decided, you know what, you can choose whether or not you want to pick Strength or Dexterity as, for example, a second stat. If you want to pick Constitution to get more hit points, that's also a possibility. If you want to pick Intelligence or Charisma, technically it is too. That's completely your call. But pretty much the idea here is you get 8 stats at level 20, which I personally think it's not a special thing. It's not like, ooh, the biggest and most exciting feature, but I do think it's a very powerful feature because a lot of your other stuff grows with it. So yeah, that's really the big idea with Natural Champion and with Ranger at this point. All right, now, before we go into these subclasses, I do think it's important that we go through another part of the document, and that is the companion bonds. So as I said, the idea with companion bonds is that they are features that in some way, shape, and form work between you and your companion. There's not a single feature in here that is purely going to work on something like Hunter's Mark or your other features. It is always going to have an effect on the bond between you and your companion. Sometimes you're going to learn something from your companion. Sometimes your companion is going to learn something from you. Sometimes you're going to have something combined. That's the idea. I do need to add more bonds to this list. I don't think there's enough of them currently. But this is, again, like sort of a starting off point to sort of get the idea across. So, first of all, let's look at this Bear Claw. This is, for example, a companion bond feature that specifically works whenever you have a bear companion. Pretty much what it says is your bear companion gets a new action, multi-attack, made 2 claw attacks, and it gets it at level 5. So what that means is whenever you have a bear companion out, it now can make 2 claw attacks instead of 1 bite or 1 claw attack. Very simple idea. Pretty much what this means is, you know, you can have your bear deal a little bit more damage. However, if you pick this bond and you have a Wolven companion, your Wolven companion isn't going to benefit from this. So you do have to be careful which bonds you pick, but you can pick this and also pick a Wolven companion in case you maybe want to switch up your bonds a little bit, kind of spread the power, so to speak. Blind bonds, requirement level 14. Your companion also gets blindside within 30 feet of it. Remember that and I'm going to quickly go through everything now. You can have a little bit of a sneak peek. Remember that at level 14, you also get Feral Senses, which gives you blindside, right? This is the idea of your companion learning something from you. Your companion now has blindside within 30 feet. Blood Bond is, I think, just an interesting little feature. You can transfer life between the two of you. You can use an action to heal your companion with your hit points. You can use an action to heal you with your companion's hit points. Right? It doesn't work if they're dead, of course. Cat sight, your primal companion can see in dim light within 60 feet of it as if it were bright light and in darkness. So it gets 60 feet of dark vision. If they already have dark vision, the range is increased by 30 feet. I think I'm actually going to change this to 60 feet. But remember, this can only be taken if you have the Gloomstalker archetype, because that's the one that fits in the darkness, so to speak. Then, defensive bond. This is, for example, one for Beastmaster Conclave. Your primal companion's AC is increased by your proficiency bonus. Then, here we get to an interesting one. Eagle Flight. Starting at level 9, whenever your primal companion is an eagle companion, you gain a fly speed equal to your movement speed. Your companion and you may not be incapacitated for this feature to work. Here is where, for example, one of those examples comes where you want to be careful with your companion, right? If your companion dies and you have eagle flight, it is not going to work anymore. You are going to lose this bonus. So you have to be careful, right? Because here, let's say that you're flying and all of a sudden your beast is killed outright, you drop to the floor. The same thing with eagle speed. All attacks of opportunity against you and your eagle companion are made at disadvantage. But that's only as long as your primal companion is an eagle companion and it is alive. And not incapacitated. So, you know. This is really an idea of be careful with your companion. It has a little bit of a trade-off. Familiar form, pretty much the idea here is you can spend a minute to transform your companion into a familiar, choosing any of these forms. It only has a hit point. Its stats turn into that of the chosen form. It acts independently of you, always obeys your commands. It only has a hit point, right? And pretty much the idea here is you sort of get a find familiar version of the spell. You sort of just get find familiar, actually. You can make it disappear into a pocket dimension and make it reappear within 30 feet of you. Stuff like that. So pretty much it has like a scouting form, you could say. And the fun thing here is if it ever drops to 0 hit points, it reverts to its original form. And you can't turn your creature into a familiar anymore until you've had a long rest, as long as it's been dropped to 0 hit points. If, for example, at a certain point in time, you would transform it into a small bird, then you snap, it turns into a big beast and starts having its combat. And then after that, you want to once again turn it into a familiar. That's possible. However, if it turns into a familiar, it gets shot out of the sky, turns back into its regular form. Then you have to wait until you've had a long rest. Easy idea. Keen senses. Again, if your companion has the ability with keen in its name, so keen smell, sight, whatever, you now also have that ability. Again, only applicable if you have a companion that is currently alive. Marked energy. This is sort of the idea here is that your companion takes damage and you can have additional uses of, for example, your hunter's mark. To give an example. Protected friends. Whenever you gain temporary hit points, your companion gets them. Whenever your companion gets temporary hit points, you get them. I think that's just a cool little thing in case you have like a party member that gives out temporary hit points every now and again. This is just a fun feature because you get double the temporary hit points. Shared mark. Your primal companion also benefits from your hunter's mark spell. Easy enough. Shifting bond, I just thought this was cool. You can cast polymorph on your primal companion, treating the companion's level as half your ranger level rounded down. So at level 7 this becomes available. It's a 4th level spell, so casters would get it at level 7. And you can just use it once and turn your companion into at level 7 it would be a CR3 creature. Then skilled companion, choose one skill proficiency from among this entire list. Any primal companion you have becomes proficient in that skill. Doesn't matter which one. To be fair, do be careful. Let's say that, for example, you pick up Perception. I think Eagle already has proficiency in Perception, so therefore it cannot gain it again. This does not give expertise. Maybe that's something at like a later level, like at level 9 or something, like Expert Companion. It gets expertise in it or whatever. And then Twinned Veil. Nature's Veil is where you use your bonus action to become invisible. You can now also turn your Primal Companion invisible. Umbral Companion, Gloomstalker at level 3 gets the fact that when a creature needs dark vision to see you, that you're technically treated as invisible. It pretty much gives that ability to your companion. And then Wolven Tactics, whenever your Wolven Companion is within 5 feet of another target, you get advantage on attacks against that target. Sort of the idea of pack tactics, but I didn't want to be like, oh, you get pack tactics, because that'd be kind of dumb. That'd be broken, I think. So that's the idea of the companion bonds at this current point in time. Again, I need to add more to these. I need to get a couple ones. I probably need to balance these. But that is the current idea of companion bonds. So let's get to the final part of this, which is the subclasses. Now, I've already talked a little bit about this. I have taken the original 3. However, let's go into the first one, Hunter. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't know if this is the Hunter subclass that I'm going to end up with. For those of you who remember Hunter, Hunter was this little subclass that had like picks between all of these different little abilities, right? Like deal an additional 1d8, you have advantage on attacks against large creatures, stuff like that, right? And pretty much what I've done is I've made a Hunter's Conclave where the subclass is pretty much based on Hunter's Mark. The reason that I'm not sure that I want to keep this is because what I've noticed is that there's already a subclass that kind of does that, and that's Monster Slayer. So I'm actually wondering if maybe I want to change Hunter Conclave to Monster Slayer Conclave, and then later down the line make Hunter's Conclave still be that same original Hunter's Conclave. Again, I'm not sure on this. Currently, the idea of the Hunter's Conclave is it uses Hunter's Mark. That's the basic idea. How does it work? Very simple. At level 3, you get Supreme Tracker, and whenever you cast Hunter's Mark, it does not require concentration for you. What does this mean? A, you don't have to make Constitution saving throws whenever you get hit. B, you can have multiple Hunter's Marks active at the same time, which is already a big thing in and of itself. And also, instead of adding 1d6 points of damage, it adds a d8. Very simple idea. And then the rest kind of works off of that. Predicting your foes, starting at level 7. Whenever a creature attacks affected by your Hunter's Mark attacks you, you can increase your AC by your proficiency bonus. So creatures that you have marked, because you can kind of... I actually imagine this as sort of... people have seen One Piece, like Luffy's future sight, where you can kind of like almost see his opponent's actions in the future. I kind of compare it to that, where you have such a good idea of what they're gonna do that you have an easier time dodging out of the way or deflecting the attack. So whenever you have an enemy marked, you get an increase to your AC whenever they try to attack you, giving you a little bit of defensive play. Grand Hunter, whenever you reach 11th level in this class, whenever you cast Hunter's Mark, you can now cast it, treat it as if you cast it at 3rd level. Remember, Hunter's Mark, the original spell, only lasts for an hour, right? Because we are going off of the player's handbook version here. What does 3rd level mean? It means that the spell now lasts 8 hours. And that's something that you have to take into consideration. Remember, this still is a spell that does not require concentration for you. So you can cast it and have it up for 8 hours, regardless of what happens. They pretty much need to do something like dispel magic or whatever. That's very important, because this now means you pretty much in a lot of cases are going to have 8 hours of Hunter's Mark. You can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. The one thing I am worried about is that technically you can have like a near infinite amount of hunter's marks, because technically, seeing as your hunter's mark charge is reset whenever you take a short rest, technically what you can do is you can cast hunter's mark as a bonus action, and then you short rests and your hunter's mark is still active because it lasts for 8 hours. That's the one thing I'm worried about. So I'm thinking of adding here, whenever you cast Hunter's Mark, it does not require concentration for you, but it ends whenever you take a short or a long rest. I think I'm adding that to this to balance that out a little bit, but I'm not sure on that yet. Also, Hunter's Mark now becomes a D10. And then at 15th level, you've become so competent in tracking your foes that you can strike back whenever they move. So whenever a target affected by your Hunter's Mark attacks you, you can use your reaction to attack them before they make their attack roll. So pretty much, you sense someone is making an attack against you, you turn around, you shoot them, you turn around, you stab them, you do whatever the hell you want. You get to attack first. The big reason that I wanted to specify that is because I have this cool image in my head of like a creature attacking your ranger and you just being able to like dodge underneath and just stab them and kill them before they ever get to do something. I don't know. I think that's a cool image in my head. And again, your Hunter's Mark now becomes a D12. So, yeah. This is the Hunter subclass. Now, Beastmaster is the second one. Some of you might already be thinking, well, didn't you put Beastmaster's main feature into the class? And yes. However, people who have seen the fighter video might have already realized what direction I'm going with this. In the fighter video, I technically put superiority dice, the Battlemaster feature, onto the main fighter. But I still kept the subclass. The thing here is, Battlemasters just have more options with superiority dice. The same thing is going to happen here. So, whenever you pick this Conclave, you can choose 2 additional companion bond features. So, at level 3, you usually get 4. Beastmaster has 6. In addition, anytime you pick companion bonds, you don't need to pay attention to Conclave requirements, but you do still need to look at other requirements. So, to give you a small reminder, there is Cat Sight, for example, which says that your Primal Companion can see in dim light within 60 feet, but it has the requirement of you being a Gloomstalker. However, if you are a Beastmaster, you can also learn this feature. That's the idea. Pretty much the idea there is because they have such good skills with beasts, they have better bonds and they can see from other rangers how they can increase that bond. That is really the idea there. So there's that. And then there's also like a little additional thing. Your Primal Companion gains an additional hit point for each of your ranger levels. So they become a little tankier. Which I just think is cool. Level 7, starting at 7th level, whenever you command your Primal Companion, you can also command them to take the dash, disengage, dodge, or help action as a bonus action. This was actually, I think, in the original subclass already, which I think is cool. I think that's just a fun little feature. Magic Enlargement, starting at 11th level. Your companion has gained enough power from the combination of primal magic and your bonds so that they can become larger than life. Any companion you have can increase or decrease their size by 1 stage as if affected by the enlarge or do spell. They can do so at will and as a free action. So pretty much, I don't know why, I just had this vision in my mind of like you having a bear that's already a large companion, and just at some point being able to turn it into like a huge bear with like some primal magic. And that's where this came from. And so I turned it into a feature for Beastmaster because I think it's cool. So you can enlarge and reduce. You can make a small eagle a tiny eagle and have it fly around. You can have your large bear become huge. I've actually thought of even making a level 11 companion bond for Beastmaster that says whenever your beast is affected by their magic enlargements, they can actually increase their size or decrease their size by 2 stages, so that you can just have like a gargantuan bear. Because I just like the visual of that. I don't know why. I just think it's cool. So yeah. And then 15, Companion Morphosis. Whenever you reach 15th level in this class, your connection to your primal companions becomes so powerful they can switch them out nearly at will. As an action, by touching your current primal companion, you can replace your primal companion with a different one, healing all damage, removing all status effects, as if the companion is brand new. You can even use this feature if your primal companion would be dead. If you use this feature, you need to take a long rest before you can use it again. Pretty much, you can have a second companion, a second life for your companion. This is a very powerful feature, but the idea is very simple. It is meant to be, how do I put this? It is meant to give you like pure control over your companion. It is the only class that will at some point be capable of maybe making a little bit different choices. I think this is a fun feature, and it pretty much means that you also have to be a little less careful with your companion, right? Especially if you combine it with something like Transfer Blood, right? You heal back up to full, then you use this action, replace your companion. Just saying, one thing that it does state, and I do want you to pay attention to that, is you can replace your primal companion with a different one. You cannot go from a bear companion to a bear companion. That is the one limitation on it. You do need to pick a different companion. The reason for that is that the fantasy that I have in my mind is that you pretty much have a set of companions who follow you from a distance, or who follow you from the Feywild or whatever, and you swap them out, right? But technically every single time when you get a bear, it's the same bear, but you also have a wolf, you also have an eagle, right? So if they die, you do need to switch them out to a different form. That's the idea there. And that's Beastmaster. Gloomstalker. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Nothing has changed in Gloomstalker, except for one small thing, which is Umbral Sight increases your dark vision rates by 60 feet if you already have dark vision. This is a One D&D change, by the way. They also did this. Why have I not changed Gloomstalker? Is it the same reason as why I didn't change Totem Warrior in Barbarian? No. I like Gloomstalker. I actually think Gloomstalker is fine the way that it is. I don't think Gloomstalker needs to change. That's the entire reason. You can beg to differ. They made this whole like frighten idea in 1D&D, and honestly, I've come to realize I'm not a fan of it. I get it. They're making this sort of like this like come from the shadows dark spirit creature. I get it what they're going with like the frighten. But first of all, I don't like frighten as a condition, and second of all, you already have all the tools that you need. You're just drawn to the shadows a little more. And I like that. And honestly, I don't think this subclass really needs anything else to it. It was the subclass that was originally already made to fix Ranger, quote unquote. I don't think you need to change anything here necessarily. I like this subclass the way it is, and currently I am keeping it that way. So, yeah. So, with that, we have gone through the entire document. We've gone through the entire Ranger revision. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see the full document with all the other classes that we've done, also where I'm going to put this one once the video goes out, and where I'm also going to put all the other classes once we've visited them, there's going to be a link in the description. In addition, if you have feedback, if you have ideas, if you have problems, if you have whatever you want to talk about, by all means, leave a comment down below. I know this is a pretty big change from the original. The writing is also probably not perfect yet. There's still work that needs to be done. It is a version 0.1. But I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. And I am currently still planning on continuing to work on these. I'm having a lot of fun making these. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy these videos as well. If you do, any kind of support is greatly appreciated. And with all of that, the only thing I can still say is I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.